What's happening, Hylians? Brotrio here, and we have not had a Zelda video in a long time. Because we haven't had Zelda information in a long time. So before we get more, we're going to make a little hype train, but this one's a bit special. We're going to take one element from each of the Zelda games in the main series and take that element and explain why we want to see it in Breath of the Wild 2. It can be as small as an item or as big as the main beat of the game. Anything goes. We're going to start with the very first Legend of Zelda. The only thing we could think of, since Breath of the Wild nailed exploration and going in wherever you want all the time, doing anything in any order you want, the only thing we could think of is silver arrows.
Because silver arrows are the tits, so they're amazing.
Dude, they're cool.
Could you imagine if you had silver arrows and there's supernatural enemies like Zelda has?
Yeah.
You shoot a demon, they burst into flames or something.
Yeah.
Re-deads take double damage from silver arrows or something like that.
Or if the what are the wolves called? I forget. Wolfos. If Wolfos are back, silver arrows.
Yeah. Something like that. Whereas
it's not
tiers
as good as
of arrow damage. So there's something between wooden arrows and light arrows. We want silver arrows just to do a little more oomph. They can be rarer to find, but deal more damage and are worth trekking them down. So moving on to one of the only games I've beaten and they haven't, with Zelda 2. Zelda 2 is an odd duck, to say the least, but one of the elements I think would be cool to take from it is the RPG elements. So there is a lot of stuff in Zelda 2 that worked and didn't work all at the same time, but the RPG stuff is one of the things that worked, where you can upgrade your health or get new attacks and stuff. That would be really cool to do in a 3D Breath of the Wild type game, because more health, that's heart containers, more stamina whatevers. And new attacks would be cool and all, but one thing that would really be cool is RPG type skills. Nothing that super major, brand new limit break type attacks in Kingdom Hearts or something. Nothing like that, but little skills that will upgrade your weapon durability or something. So once you unlock that skill, your weapons last twice as long or something like that. And I mean, maybe some type of big skill that costs a lot of XP or something to buy. I don't know how it would work, if it's XP or XP modules or something you get from shrines, whatever it is. But if you could unlock new attacks with boomerangs, or new attacks with great swords, covering all the weapon bases would be really cool to have a lot more I don't know, customization to combat, because honestly Breath of the Wild's combat it's stellar, but it does get kind of stale if you're only rocking broadswords and that's it. I mean, if you're only rocking great sword, one weapon type of anything gets stale after a while, which is the whole point of the weapon durability system. But still, let's get a little more crazy with the sequel, because I mean, it's a sequel, so everything's going to be a little bit better or a little bit different.
One thing that would definitely be a welcome addition to Breath of the Wild 2 is just some magic.
Yeah.
We haven't had a core console Zelda with magic since Wind Waker.
A Link to the Past had loads of magic.
Yeah.
And we're talking true, I was going to say true blue, but true green magic. Because, the magic meter is what we're really talking about. Every Zelda game has magic in it. The Gale Boomerang was magic. The Sheikah Slate might as well be magic. But we're talking about actual magic meter. You gotta cut grass to get the bottles magic.
Yeah, and A Link to the Past had some great magic. Those medallions, you just cause them earthquakes and stuff all over the place.
The Quake Medallion, the Bombos Medallion, the Lightning Medallion, I forget what that one's called.
Yeah, I forget that one's
all
name.
The rods too.
Yeah, the rods,
ice, fire.
And that's the other thing, is item variety is like one of the key features of that game. There are so many things Link has at his disposal,
And everything's good.
and
That's the thing. Twilight Princess is
Yeah.
on the opposite end of that spectrum. Everything in Link to the Past is good. It's so awesome. It has the best items in the franchise.
It really
Easy.
does.
Yeah,
It's got the mirror shield,
if
the
you-
cape, the block cane.
yeah. If you add that type of stuff to the problem-solving aspects of Breath of the Wild, you're gonna be it's gonna be years and years down the line, and people will still be figuring out new ways to do things.
They're still figuring out Breath of the Wild stuff,
Exactly.
new stuff. So imagine Breath of the Wild physics with a massive arsenal of items, and you have got like a game with legs, man. That'll last forever.
So moving on to Link's Awakening, and this darling of a game has a few elements we think would be useful in Breath of the Wild 2. One of which is a trading quest, because those are always fun in Zelda games, whether they be timed like in Ocarina, or if it's just trading a bunch of shit with random people that seem to like it, like in Link's Awakening. As long as there's a good reward.
Yeah, just
at
give a
the
can
end.
of dog food to an alligator and he gives you bananas.
Right. I mean,
that's
makes sense to me. But we want a trading quest that's worth it. Not some trading quest where you just get like
a heart piece.
a heart piece or
Or
food
money.
or money
Rupees.
or anything. It needs to be something substantial like a boomerang or like a Bigoron sword or something useful.
Magic armor, anything like
something really cool that makes you feel like this trading quest was worth it. And I want this quest to be lengthy. I don't want to be able to do it at the beginning of the game. I want it to like take a long time, because with how Breath of the Wild works, how you can do anything in any order you want, you could be able to do this at the beginning, but for them to have the same feel like Link's Awakening or like Ocarina of Time did,
To prevent
they'd have
that.
to make it massive.
Yeah, to prevent it being done at the beginning, you just get like a guy. He's like, I need 100 Lionel hearts or something.
Oh,
Not
God.
100, but like a lot of Lionel hearts. You cannot do that at the beginning. That
I
would
mean,
be-
obviously, we're trading a fine line between like super fetch questy. So there is a bit of finagling and balance to work in there, but something that makes it feel very like classic Zelda in this new Zelda landscape. That being said, another thing we want from Link's Awakening is the ability to steal from shops.
Yeah,
and be
boy.
labeled a thief.
about to do some thieving. I don't want to be labeled thief though.
But
Yeah, if
you
you
would
get
only
caught.
be labeled thief if you get caught and in that same town. And only that town. So if you thief in Kakariko, they'll call you thief.
They should
Everybody-
applaud that in Kakariko.
Yeah, but everybody would like stare you down and mean mug you after
Yeah.
you stole and got caught. And have some
Maybe-
type of consequence.
Unless
for
you
it.
pay the bounty. Like
Yeah,
in Red Dead.
that's what I was gonna say. Maybe have a thing where you can reset it, and then if you steal again, they're just like, I knew it.
Maybe if you steal too much, the Yiga clan comes after you to get the bounty on your head or something.
Ooh.
That's getting a little westerny, but still,
Yeah.
you know, we're just talking wild ideas. But basically, we really want the ability to steal stuff. And with that being said, we want to steal stuff that matters. So in Breath of the Wild, there wasn't really anything other than clothing that really mattered that you could buy. So, you know, let's get some weapon shops or something where you can buy, like, for a lot of rupees, you could buy like a Lionel bow. So it costs more to get one then and there, but if you want to, you can go get one without paying for it, which I think would be really cool.
Oh yeah.
But that's another topic for another day.
There is quite a bit of greatness to pull from Ocarina of Time, but what we narrowed it down to compared to the other Zeldas would be dungeon design and bosses. Ocarina of Time had both of those down pat. It was a pure art form, and I'm not saying the dungeon designs or bosses are bad in future games, but Ocarina just had something special about it.
Oh yeah, like almost everybody, that's the iconic dungeons they think of when they think of Zelda.
Yeah, you got Fire Temple, even the Water Temple, it's infamous, but it's still iconic.
Right.
Yeah.
Shadow Temple.
Shadow
Oh.
Temple. Ooh, horrible. Horrifying, not horrible. Spirit Temple is fantastic. The Deku Tree, great introduction. I could have done without the one inside in Jabu's belly, but I don't like things inside of things, so like that's just a me thing.
And that's another thing though with Breath of the Wild. Like, they have nowhere to go but up, really, from the dungeon and boss design aspect.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, there were the overworld bosses, which are cool and all, like the Hinox.
Monk Kosha is one of the best bosses in Zelda history, but he's DLC.
He's awesome. Yeah. But the Ganon Blights, well, interesting.
They're fun mostly, but it's like, why are they all just Ganons?
Yeah, let's get some variety, like Bongo Bongo.
Yeah, you have a ghost playing the drums.
I didn't have to shoot anybody's hands in that game.
A big old, like, dinosaur that you throw bombs in his mouth till he rolls into the lava and burns to death. You got this big old spider, a water tentacle with an eyeball in it. I mean, the bosses...
Tummy Jellyfish.
Tummy Jellyfish. The bosses in Ocarina of Time were insanely good. Twin Rova especially. Twin Rova was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we really want, is not only good boss design, but good boss, like, fight aspects. Because, like, Twin Rova is one of the most inventive fights in Zelda history. And to see that same feel of a fight come back in the sequel to Breath of the Wild, one of the games... which, if it's anything like the original Breath of the Wild, will have one of the best physics and fighting mechanics ever, would be absolutely ridiculous to enjoy. Like, if you could get, like, I don't know if you could get a mirror shield in Breath of the Wild or whatever, but, like, sucking up their elements and blasting them back.
Most importantly,
in Breath of the Wild would be awesome.
Most importantly, though, let's talk final bosses.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild. What the... Okay, you get this great, massive adventure where you can basically approach any situation however you want and solve it however you want. Like, I was fighting one of the Blights, I broke all my weapons, so what I did is I stasis an ice block and I hit it back at him and killed him. It was amazing. But then you get to the final battle, big old pig. He looks great. He looked really cool. But
he doesn't do anything. He can stand there. He won't kill you or anything. He stands there
and he growls, and you ride around in circles and shoot his glowy spots. No. Ocarina of Time's final battle made me feel overpowered. Made me feel intimidated. It was fantastic. You couldn't even see Ganondorf's face, or Ganon's face at this point. Two massive sword, big pig demon. It was phenomenal. Surrounded by fire. Everything about that final battle was great. It's one of the greatest final battles in history. And we followed up with shooting the glowy spots. That's the only hating we're going to do on Breath of the Wild in this list. Them bosses were kind of rough.
Majora's Mask is probably the best Zelda to talk about because it's one of the few sequels that uses the same elements like what Breath of the Wild's going to do. The one thing that we were going to say, it needs to bring in like the weird dark atmosphere and things like that, but given from that trailer, it already is bringing that.
Yeah, it looks like we're already there, but we want weird dark shit.
Yeah, weird dark. Give us more, please.
And it's not just Ganon bending over and breaking his neck and shit. I mean, like, Anju and Cafe, or whatever the couple's name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the happy mask dude. Like embrace each other at the end of the world. It was like sad crap. It's so good.
There's one aspect of Majora's Mask that makes it stand out from all other Zelda games. You have a variety of instruments, and they're all pretty cool.
And the songs do really cool stuff.
Yes, they do.
So it's basically, we thought of this one for Ocarina of Time, obviously. Like, the titular Ocarina lets you do just crazy things, like storms and change day and night. Really cool, but Majora's Mask does pretty much all of that, but a little better because swapping between forms, you have like the Deku pipes, the Goron bongos, and the Zora guitar.
And I mean, you can march with them chickens.
Right.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine if you had, well, first of all, a magic instrument in Breath of the Wild.
Period.
Second of all, if you could choose what it was.
Ooh.
Like
and swap them out.
If you could buy an ocarina and use that, or you could go to the Goron place get some
drums.
bongos.
I'd go
from them.
straight to the Zords
Like,
and get a sick guitar.
yeah.
Especially if you could, like, I mean, this is getting a little Animal Crossing-y, but if you could customize it in some way to make it, like, a little
That'd be
more
cool.
personal,
Yeah.
would be awesome. Also, having the ability, especially if you learned the Song of Storms in Breath of the Wild, could you imagine how much that would help? I'd never have to wait for rain to stop to climb a damn mountain ever again.
Yeah, that would be
Ugh.
awesome.
Moving on to the Oracle games, we lumped them all together. We lumped both of them together. We want animal buddies. More than
Yes.
just horses. That's about all the animal buddies you got in Breath of the Wild. And you could summon a wolf and feed dogs. But we want legit animal buddies. I don't necessarily want to ride in the pouch as a kangaroo. Or in a kangaroo this time.
Oh, I would love to
But-
do that.
I would be kind of down.
Or a flying bear.
Yeah.
Or,
Moose should be cool. I like the dinosaur
Damn.
too.
yeah.
He's a Dodongo,
The
basically.
Dongo, yeah, the Dongo monster. He'd be cool.
I just want different mounts, honestly.
Yeah, it's mounts that would be a lot of
Yeah.
like. Let me register
Mounts,
the bears.
Hold
yeah,
on,
mounts
yeah.
that you can save.
Different registerable mounts. Like, if I could save the Lord of the Mountain,
Oh my god!
like, that would be the best thing ever.
If I could if I could put a bear in the stable and use that when I'm using my barbarian armor, like shit.
Right.
Let me paint that bear. Put tribal markings on that bear.
Man, yeah.
That's a different topic, I guess. But animal buddies is the main thing. We've gotten touches of it in a lot of Zelda games, but it's never been like 100% embraced. And I just think it'd be really cool if you could like summon a pack of wolves to help you fight and stuff like that.
I
Or
don't know about summon. You're not the Beast Master.
no, you like
but-
whistle. Not like
Okay.
bite your thumb and make a circle on the ground like Naruto. You just like whistle and a bunch of
Oh,
wolves show
okay.
up. And the second thing would be the ring system, because that was cool.
Yeah.
That just giving you different buffs, depending on what ring you wear, or you could turn into an Octorok. It's just kind of more of a secondary like armor kind of set.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you got helmet, chest, legs, rings.
And you could have, like, jewelry stores in towns and stuff where you could buy them. They'd probably be a lot of money, but, you know, if you bought an attack ring, you would get, like, a 10% attack bonus or something like that. You could find different rings in, like, hidden caves.
Hell, even set it up online where you could trade rings with people on
Yeah,
your friends
that-
list.
That'd be cool.
really cool.
But either way, I just always liked the rings from Oracle games, and I think they would fit really well in the Breath of the Wild sequel.
In a similar manner to what we did with the Oracle games, we're going to lump the Four Swords games together because, frankly, they're pretty similar games.
At least for our needs for this list.
Yeah.
Like, they don't differ too much, and I mean, the Switch doesn't have any peripherals, like, it doesn't work with the 3DS or anything like that, and we don't want it to. So, we're
Yeah.
really just sticking to some core concepts from these games.
And that concept, we think it would be amazing if there was like a huge optional multiplayer dungeon.
Yeah, not
Or
the
like-
whole game.
Yeah.
Just like a dungeon. A cool
Like just one thing to just bust out with your friends. Maybe it's like slightly procedurally generated or something, so it's a little different each time you go in.
Yeah, you can't have it be the same every
But-
time.
Like solving puzzles with 4 people just sounds like it would be a blast in 3D because it was in 2D.
Right.
And
And that's one of the things about Four Swords that is another thing we would want, is like just creative puzzle design, because Four Swords has some great like puzzle solutions in there. I mean, they mainly revolve around 4 people doing one thing in unison or something like that. But just the feel of very creative puzzle designs. And I mean, it's Breath of the Wild, so you could solve it in like 14 different ways, but just creative puzzles in general was really well done in the Four Swords series, and we really want to see it return like to true form in Breath of the Wild 2. now it's time for my favorite game in the franchise, The Wind Waker. Now, Wind Waker has some great stuff to take from it, to put into any game. But one of the main things we would want in Breath of the Wild 2 is a true sense of adventure. And it has never been captured quite as well as in The Wind Waker. I mean, you're just setting out on the open ocean, sailing from one land to the next, dealing with Octoroks and weird little sharks and stuff in the ocean.
There's so much stuff in between those islands to get just distracted by.
Every square of the map has something that has been like carefully thought of, placed there and placed for a reason, but in a way that doesn't feel like it was really made to be that way, even though I know it was. It feels like very natural in how they did it. And you just come across stuff in just like the funnest way possible. Like, I mean, I didn't even know, before the Triforce quest even happened, I came across the ghost ship and I was like, what in the hell is happening?
Oh yeah, that was horrifying. Or Cyclos,
yeah,
run into him, it's like, oh, let me get out of here, and then you can't.
Or like you just accidentally run into the giant squid.
Yeah.
Don't even have
horrifying. But that's one thing we really want. The second thing, which also just makes Wind Waker like the best ever, is having a personal stake in the plot. Because in Wind Waker, Link is all about getting his sister back, and then he's all about like helping his grandma, and then he's all about like earning the Triforce, and then it's all like personal to him.
Yeah, and save the world stuff comes later.
Right, it's just really
get like your sister.
Yeah,
it drives the plot, but it also helps really drive like the character home for Link in that game. It really makes you, the player, want to beat it, to get that realization that just like, yes, I saved my sister from the Helmerach King. I am a hero. And then it just feels really well to once going from seeing your sister get grabbed by this bird to driving a sword in Ganondorf's forehead. From that point to that point, you felt so much like drive to beat the game, because reading all the dialogue and everything as Link, you have all this, like we said it, personal stakes in what's happening, and it really helps you feel connected to the game and immersed in it. So if Breath of the Wild 2 did this, it would be just on a whole other level than any other Zelda game. If it has like Breath of the Wild's gameplay and the personal stakes of Wind Waker, it would just be phenomenal.
Minish Cap had one of the coolest collectible like side games or whatever of all time. The Kinstones changing the world from small stuff like I don't know, tickling a dog so it runs out of the way or whatever, to big stuff like opening up a mountain. There were a lot that these Kinstones did, and they were fun. They were all fun to collect, see what would happen. Sometimes barely anything happened. Sometimes it was a complete game changer. The Kinstone trading quest, while a little too big for my liking, I would maybe not 900 of them or whatever the Kinstones were, but they were fun. They were really fun trying to find, like, you come across someone and they've got like a weird like purple one that's shaped like, that's got like a crack in the middle, and your weird purple one has a bunch of like, is just shaped different, and it's so frustrating because you've got like 100 red ones but only one purple one, and you don't know when you're going to see that again. It was a cool time. It was great. You could do it, like a little bubble pops up above their head. It's like, hey, want to fuse Kinstones? It's like, hell yes, I want to fuse Kinstones, mailman. Let's go Kinstones. Breath of the Wild 2. Sheikah Boogaloo.
One of my personal favorite Zeldas is Twilight Princess. I thought everything about that game just seemed really epic, and the story went really well. But the main thing, it had some bombastic, awesome music. And Breath of the Wild didn't really have a lot in the music department, so
no, it had
bump that up.
But it was all piano.
Breath of the Wild's music was pretty good for what it was.
It's just,
but
I'm just by comparison.
At the
Yeah.
same time, I would much rather this to this.
I mean, you can't have it be loud and bombastic constantly.
Oh no.
I understand that.
But
You
the
need
moments that it would be fitting, you should have it.
You need
Right.
ambient noise sometimes when you're going to be constantly in the open world kind of thing. But it's just like sometimes you're just wandering and you can basically hear nothing in the music department. It's just footsteps and growls and animal stuff. And yeah, just need not only the overworld theme, the dungeon themes in Twilight Princess were really good.
A lot of the bosses had really good themes as well. It really made you feel like you were like whooping an ass when you were fighting that like stupid plant monster. Anytime you would make that butt monkey bring you a bomb bug and you'd make it eat it or something. Like, it was awesome, and it really helped accent how cool you were doing, because like whenever you do something that you're supposed to, especially in boss fights, the music changes. So whenever you like grab the chains and trip Virus, like it starts doing this riff where it's like all heroic and things are rising, makes you feel really awesome, and it makes you want to like destroy Virus.
In that dark rendition of Zelda's Lullaby when you're fighting possessed Zelda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Holy
Twilight
shit.
Princess did an amazing job musically, and it really helped that like the cues were there for whenever you were doing something like that. And I know that would be trouble in Breath of the Wild, maybe not for boss fights and everything, but you know, there's a fine line to draw between like bombastic all the time music like Twilight Princess and, you know, finding a balance between that and the Breath of the Wild soundtrack.
And another thing we want to bring from Twilight Princess is alternative uses for items. Like the first time when I had the iron boots on and I got sucked up to that magnet rock, my mind was blown.
I know.
Magnet
Like
Rock.
it was just like, oh
So cool.
my god, the iron boots can do more than just make me sink.
Yeah, it didn't do anything to your
And then-
sword or whatever, but it's fine.
Yeah.
That's whatever. But
Different metal. It's made out of aluminum.
God.
and there were like several different types of bombs. Underwater bombs would be a really cool thing to bring in.
Right.
I don't care about those bug bombs. They can stay out.
I just
Bring bomb
shoes.
shoes back.
Yeah,
How about
bomb
that?
shoes.
Bomb shoes.
I don't care if they're random and don't always do what you want. They're still fun.
Right. But we just, I mean, you could say any of that's possible in Breath of the Wild as it is, but we just want more, like, collaboration on that, like, general topic. Because, like, yes, you can stasis a rock, climb on it, and then launch yourself across the country, but we also want more stuff like underwater bombs and
Magnet
boots. Like, there is
Yeah.
really inventive uses to spruce up like older stale items, and it really helped Twilight Princess stand out, so it would help Breath of the Wild 2 stand out even more. And now we have 2 games in a row that only I have beat, so you get to hear me talk twice in a row.
I beat Hourglass.
Oh, well, you never talk about it.
It's not that good.
Okay. Well, so Phantom Hourglass, what we really want to take from it is... So, like we said, we're not the biggest fans of it. Like, Phantom Hourglass is okay. It's great for the DS, but
I like Lineback.
if I could change it to actual controls instead of touch controls, that would save it. But that's a discussion for another day. We really liked that you could draw on the maps. That was one of the best feature of Phantom Hourglass, because you had your little pirate map and you could just be like, oh, treasure here, squid here, don't go here.
No, don't.
There was even a puzzle. I mean, you can't do this on the Switch, but this is cool for Phantom Hourglass, where like you had to flip cover onto a map or something, and the way to solve it was to like close the DES, so then it was like imposed on the map. It was really cool, really inventive. So if you could actually just draw on your map in Breath of the Wild, it would be really cool to do. I mean, it's not an actual map, I know, it's on the Sheikah Slate, but you know, iPads have like drawing on them, and that's what the Sheikah Slate is. So.
Yeah, or you could have like kind of like a post-it note type of system, just like
something.
There's a Korok over here, but I don't know what to do about it, or something like that.
And I mean, you had the stamps in Breath of the Wild, but we just want a little bit more embellishment on the maps, pre-made stamps. So Spirit Tracks had a good, it was a better game than Phantom Hourglass, but you could already draw on the maps in that one, so we don't really have much to say for Phantom Hourglass.
Except Ghost Buddy. Zelda was your Ghost Buddy. It looks like a ghost was holding down Ganondorf, and then that ghost saved Link or Zelda when they fell in a pit. Then Link has Ghost Hand, Ghost Buddy.
Yeah, so if our theory is correct, and your hand is possessed by some like Hylian ghost. Maybe it's Zelda's dad.
Yeah.
Ghost Buddy. He can possess, or it can possess armor, and then you can move it around to your will, or something like that, like in Spirit Tracks. Yeah. You know, something to help solve the puzzles, and maybe talk to, like, whenever you're feeling lonely in the Hyrule Fields. And then another thing I think would be cool is if the Sheikah Slate could summon a motorcycle, wouldn't it be a lot cooler if it could summon a train?
Trains can only go on tracks.
Yes, but there are tracks, because like you go in the Goron Mines, there's the minecart tracks all over the place. And imagine if you could traverse them.
Oh yeah,
with
the Goron's building tracks all over
Spirit
Hyrule.
Sheikah train you just summoned, and then Link climbs aboard,
choo
pulls
choo
the horn, and you're off. Like, that would be really fun. It's not going to happen.
Could be a really cool, like, rebuilding the Terrytown type of thing, where you could, like...
Oh, you cart materials.
Like, you could fund and cart materials to build a railroad across the town.
You get the conductor's outfit that Link wears at the beginning of Spirit Tracks.
Yes, and maybe you can upgrade it to be an all-terrain train that you can just drive across Hyrule Field like the motorcycle.
Or you can put spikes on the front, and it's the pain train.
Obviously, we know this is not going to happen, but it would be so hilariously awesome if it did.
The thing Skyward Sword has done better than any other Zelda game is story and characters. And that's what we want in Breath of the Wild 2. The story was mostly fine. That was about it. I'm not hating on it. It was good for what it was, but it just sucks that almost everything of significance in that game happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And that the champions are cool and Zelda's cool. But they didn't make me, mostly except for Mipha, they didn't make me care about them the way I cared about Zelda and Groose and all them in Skyward Sword. Mainly Zelda and Groose. Groose
I hated Groose at first.
Oh, I hated him so much.
I grew to love him.
Want to talk about a redemption arc? We talk about Groose. Groose went from a bully that was like in love with Zelda to like a kind of nice guy that's in love with Zelda, but realizes he's not the hero of the story like he thought he was at first. He is there to help, but he is not the one to save the day. Groose is fantastic, and that is still my favorite Zelda, because Breath of the Wild is cool, but this one's fun and cute and quirky, not like just sad.
To clarify, he means the actual character Zelda.
Yes, not the game. The character Zelda in Skyward Sword, I thought she was great. She was not what we normally get out of Zelda, which she was bubbly, she was fun. And she was, once she realized her destiny, she got more serious. But if you played through Skyward Sword and you got to the part where she was crystallizing herself in amber, and she said, "Don't worry, I'm still your Zelda," and then crystallized, and Link, while Link's running at her, there's not a dry eye in the house in that scene, okay? They did story and characters so well in Skyward Sword, and that is definitely what we would pull for Breath of the Wild 2.
If there's one thing I'm a sucker for in Zelda, it's the Dark World. I love the Twilight Realm, I love the Dark World in Link to the Past. And A Link Between Worlds is the most fully realized Dark World that there is. Like, everything has an antithesis on the other side. There's another Link out there that's like a coward.
And we know it's not technically the Dark World, it's low rule. But you get what we mean.
Yeah.
An alternate
low
version.
Rule, but
Ocarina of Time even had one with the future.
Yeah. Like, they had their own Triforce that was different. And there's just a lot of give and take, and I loved that so much.
Wait, so what's their Triforce? Like fear, stupidity, and weakness?
Yes. Sure.
Oh. Alright. Ignorance, not stupidity.
But how we think it would work in Breath of the Wild 2 would probably be, like, a lot of people think you're going underground for, like, the entirety of the game for some reason. But we think, like, the underneath, like, I guess the mole people are living there or whatever. Whoever is living there, like the subterranean area under Hyrule.
The ones from the Oracle games.
I don't know. There's
They're
mole
like in the
people
in the robes.
Skyward Sword. Oh,
the Subrosians?
Yeah, that's it.
But it could be something similar. Like, I'm going to reference Hollow Knight here for Aaron. Like the raining city or whatever is actually just like something underneath, like a lake, so it's always getting dripped on. Something like that could happen, and then you could drain the lake, save the city from the eternal rain underground, or something like that. But I mean, it doesn't have to be an underground city. It could be a fully realized Dark World, but we just love like the duality. Where, like, you do one thing here and it changes something there. And it doesn't even have to be a completely separate world, as long as it has that, like, ask and answer type feel to it whenever, like, you do something, so it'll feel like what you did matters. Especially if it's, like, changing stuff, like how the people of the world act and everything. It's a really good reward and makes you feel like you did something worthwhile for more than just furthering the plot. Well, we're at almost the end, so that means it's time for Triforce Heroes.
We need that game's plot again.
Yes.
Just no, I'm cursed with a potato sack.
I have to wear a potato sack. Help me.
So this game was not the greatest ever, but it had some perks to it. And those were the outfit abilities. Like, you could dress like a cactus and just run into enemies and hurt them. You could dress as, like, I don't know, something else, and you got different abilities.
Yeah,
basically,
like a bomb outfit.
There was one that you didn't slip on ice, or like one that you shot 3 arrows instead of 1. Like
Fierce
that kind
Deity
of stuff.
was an outfit, I believe.
Yeah,
Fierce Deity was way overpowered. You shot like
it's Fierce Deity.
4 sword beams every time if you were full health.
Yeah. So what we would want for this in Breath of the Wild 2 is basically
game-changing outfit abilities, not just like you climb faster.
Like, they were like slight perks in Breath of the Wild 2, and we do want those still.
Basically,
it's
like a better set bonus.
I ain't hating on the climbing gear, man. That was my number one.
Or maybe just like rarer stuff for like the game-changing stuff, where you have to find an armor similar to the Barbarian armor. How you had to do the 3 labyrinth challenges to get the Barbarian set, and then it gave you an attack boost. But what if you did all that and then you got like an attack boost and I don't know, something else in addition to that, where it was just, I don't know, better and more realized outfit abilities.
Like the Barbarian attack, you get the attack boost, but you also can just like sock them just right in the face.
Yeah,
game something like that.
It'd be really cool, really interesting, and a great way to just keep everything fresh and going for years to come.
The final Zelda game to talk about is, of course, Breath of the Wild. We aren't going to say much about this one because we're assuming that most everything's coming over. They can't really have a sequel to Breath of the Wild but restrict you. So we imagine the freedom's coming over. We imagine the physics engine's coming over. We might lose the Sheikah Slate, but that's about it. Like, they've got a depower Link at the beginning.
Yeah.
But
they don't have to.
Yeah,
they could just start off that way, and then you get way better.
Yeah, level everything else up.
But they probably are just going to power you down.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 2 style. But this being a direct sequel, it's probably going to be pretty similar to Breath of the Wild and just build upon the amazing foundation that's already there. So we didn't have much to say about that. So that wraps up this special version of a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 Sheikah Boogaloo hype train. We hope you enjoyed it. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it's just never been a good time. So there's kind of a lull in the industry right now, despite fake E3s going on everywhere. So we just wanted to get this out when we could before we know too much about the game, so we can't do it, you know what I mean? So I'm very happy to have done this. I can't wait to make more hype trains. The more games keep getting announced and announced and announced. But until then, we've been Brotrio. Have a good day.